Welcome back to the deep dive. We're picking up on our exploration of Steve Diazio's framework from evaluating your creativity.
We are, and last time, we spent a lot of time looking inward, at the creative self.
Right, that was pillar one.
Yeah.
But today we're shifting focus. We're looking outward.
Exactly. We're moving on to what the framework calls Pillar 2, the creative environment.
And I think this is where things get really interesting for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Because you might feel, personally very creative.
But you're stuck.
You're stuck. You feel like you're running into a wall. And you start to think, maybe the problem is me.
And this framework argues that most of the time, it really isn't. The central idea for today is, well, pretty profound. Most creativity problems are not talent problems.
They're environment problems.
They're environment problems.
Right.
The system you're in, the culture, the team, that's what either supports or, more often than not, silently suppresses your best ideas.
So if pillar one was about your personal creative engine, pillar two is about the road you're driving on.
That's a great way to put it. Is it a smooth, open highway, or is it full of potholes and stop signs? The framework actually has a unifying structure for this, what it calls the 4 pillars of creative power.
Can we just quickly recap those?
Of course, they are imagination, expression, risk-taking, and reflection. Every part of the creative process falls into one of those 4.
Okay, so imagination, expression, risk-taking, reflection. And for the creative environment, for pillar two, which of those are most important?
It really zooms in on 2 of them, expression and risk-taking.
Why those two specifically?
Because your environment is constantly sending you signals about them. It's the set of norms and incentives that tells you how safe it is to express an idea and how costly it is to take a risk on it.
So it's less about whether you have good ideas
Yeah,
and more about whether you feel you can actually say them out loud.
precisely. The environment is always training you. And so the framework asks you to become an observer of your own environment and ask some key questions.
Like what? What am I looking for?
Well, the first one is simple. What behaviors are rewarded here? I mean, really rewarded. With promotions, with praise, with visibility.
Okay, and I'm guessing the flip side of that is?
What behaviors are quietly punished, not, officially reprimanded, but punished with silence, with eye rolls, with being passed over for the next big project.
The subtle stuff.
The subtle stuff is everything. And maybe the most important question is the third one. What ideas never get voiced?
Ooh, that's a tough one to measure. How do you know what isn't being said?
You feel it. You know that meeting where everyone is silent after the boss speaks, where an idea just dies on the vine because nobody wants to be the one to back it?
I think everyone has been in that meeting.
That silence is data. It's your environment telling you that expressing a contrary opinion is a risk, so you learn not to do it.
The environment teaches you to be less creative.
It trains you day in and day out on exactly how creative you're allowed to be. Let's think about a concrete example.
Okay.
Imagine a company that says, "We value innovation" on all their posters.
Right. Standard corporate wallpaper.
But then, during performance reviews, the only thing that gets rewarded is hitting efficiency targets and minimizing errors.
So doing the same thing you did last quarter, just 5% faster.
Exactly. The stated value is imagination, but the rewarded behavior is predictability. What do you think employees are going to optimize for?
Predictability. Every single time.
Of course, because that's what the system is actually telling them matters. The environment's real values are not what's written on the wall, they're what's reflected in the reward structure.
This connects back to something the framework calls the creative flow scoreboard.
It does. We talked about how, to be creative, an individual needs to remain clear, open, and warm.
Clear, open, and warm. And you're saying the environment can shut all of that down.
Instantly. It doesn't matter how open you are as a person. If you're in an environment where you're afraid of looking stupid, afraid of your boss, afraid of failing, you can't stay open. Fear closes you down.
It's a defense mechanism.
It's a survival mechanism. And most corporate environments are, unfortunately, optimized for efficiency, not imagination. Certainty is valued more than curiosity.
And that's a huge problem because real innovation doesn't come from certainty.
Never. It comes from curiosity. It comes from asking, what if? And a culture that rewards certainty is a culture that, by definition, punishes the kind of risk-taking that leads to breakthroughs.
So we've talked about the signals, the rewards, the punishments. Let's maybe pause here for a moment.
A reflection pause. It's one of the pillars, after all.
It is. So for everyone listening, I want you to just take a second and think about your own primary environment. It could be your job, your team, even your family.
And ask yourself that question we raised earlier, but maybe a bit more directly.
What is my environment training me to do creatively?
And just as important,
What is it training me to avoid?
just sit with that for a second. Think about the last idea you had that you didn't share. Why didn't you? What was the calculation you made in that moment?
That's a really powerful exercise.
Yeah.
Because you start to see it's not a personal failing.
Yeah.
It's a rational response to the signals you've been given.
It's a completely rational response. You're adapting to survive in the ecosystem you're in. The problem isn't that you're not a lion, it's that you're living in an aquarium, and you're being judged on your ability to swim.
So what's the solution then? If we diagnose that our environment is, well, an aquarium, and we want to be a lion, what do we do? Quit our jobs?
That's one option, but not always the most practical one. The goal of this framework isn't just diagnosis, it's redesign.
Redesigning the creative conditions.
Yes, and that's really where the deeper work in the Evaluating Your Creativity course comes in. It's about learning to identify these environmental blockers and then, strategically change them.
And this isn't just for leaders or managers, is it?
Not at all. Anyone can influence their microenvironment. It can be as simple as how you respond to a colleague's idea in a meeting.
Instead of pointing out the one flaw, you could.
No.
What?
You could build on the interesting part. You could say, I like that, and what if we also? You're sending a new signal. You're making it just a little bit safer for expression and risk-taking.
You're changing the rules of the game, even if it's just at your own desk.
You're starting to align the system, even in a small way, with human creativity, not just with mechanical efficiency.
That feels more empowering. It's not just about being a victim of your environment, but an architect of it.
That's the goal. The entire point of this work and what we do at the School of Creativity and Innovation is to help people learn how to design environments where creativity becomes, well, inevitable.
Inevitable, not accidental. I like that.
It's not about waiting for the muse to strike. It's about building a space where the muse feels welcome to show up every day.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive on Pillar 2, the main takeaway for me is that we need to stop blaming ourselves first.
Absolutely. Start by looking around you. Become a curious observer of the systems you're a part of.
Ask those questions. What's rewarded?
Right.
What's punished? And what's left unsaid?
Because the answers to those questions will tell you more about your creative potential than any personality test ever could.
It reframes the whole issue. Instead of asking, how can I be more creative? The better question might be,
How can we build an environment where creativity can't help but flourish?
that's a much more interesting problem to solve.
It's the real work at the end of the day.
Thanks for diving in with us.